It's going to go to Jason Gill, who's working with. Okay. All right, we are back. So great. We are rolling. And here we are. So yeah, Phil, however you want to start off, we're here and ready.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. This is really a special opportunity for three friends to come together and talk about the future of children. We've known each other since we worked together and collaborated on a project called Exploration Center. The miracle of that project for me was first just being in that part of the world for as long as I was. I really enjoyed British Columbia and especially Vancouver Island. But one of the things that occurred really quickly is Shefali Tsarberry agreed to do a film, and then we got in touch. I was put in touch with you two, meaning Akira Chan and Renee, and then miraculously a film was produced in what seemed like lightning speed to me. And when I first saw the film, I was so moved and touched by it. And I knew that there was integrity behind it. And I knew that there was passion behind it. And I knew there was heart behind it. I didn't really know the filmmakers at that moment, but I was just blown away because it made me feel like, oh, wow, this is how evolution works. Mm-hmm. You find multi-generational teammates, you're put together by the great mystery, and just the film itself had an impact on lots of people. Certainly it had an enormous impact on me. So we just met with each other a week or so ago in Texas, in Austin, Texas, I should say, and we rekindled and reinvested in the bond of our friendship, and asking you two to be a part of letting people know about the future of children rewirement training that's coming up. And April 28th through 30th is a part of the reason we're here. But mostly I want everybody to know that when you're doing this kind of leading edge evolutionary paradigm shifting, you never know what the result is going to be. Just like you never know when a baby is going to be coming. And in your case, we know that Osiris was a gift that came from the great mystery. It was not necessarily a planned gift, and then your life changes dramatically. Yeah. And you don't know what's going to happen next. You just know you're on the most precious and important journey of your lifetime when a child is given to you. So there's no better way to introduce you to your filmmakers, of course, and you're actually paradigm shifters, each in your own right, doing very different things sometimes and collaborating often, and also you're the parents of this beautiful soul that we call Osiris. So welcome.
Thank you, Phil. It's so great to be with you. And it was great being with you in person for a little reunion. And I mean, I think Renee could agree. We could just sit and talk and listen to you and absorb your beautiful wisdom for hours and days and beyond. And when you were just sharing that intro, something came to mind for me, which is, this often shared, parable, or this idea that when you plant seeds, you're investing in the future, and you're planting seeds for trees that you might not ever sit under. And then every now and then, you meet somebody, especially in the work we do, doing a lot of documentary work and transformational, human-based, story-based projects, history-based projects, that when I met you, and when we met you, it felt like, oh, this is somebody who helped to contribute to this tree that we find ourselves playing under and learning from and eating fruit from. And that was what it felt like for me when we started to work on projects related to education and parenting and children, and to discover your book and be introduced to you. It was just this realization of like, wow, Phil, you kind of set the foundation and the stage, and we didn't even realize it in so many ways. So, I just want to honor you and your work that way, because sometimes you don't realize it until you meet, the original I don't know, farmer, a person who sowed the seed, and you go, oh, that's why a lot of this is here. And I know it's you and many, many others, but that's something that was a real gift in connecting with you.
Yep.
Renee, I would like you to say some things because as I've gotten to know you, we've actually sung together. I don't know if you remember that, but we were at an event in Pasadena, and we sang together. And I remember thinking, boy, here I am with this beautiful woman singing a song in front of a bunch of people, and just marveling at at your story that now that I'm beginning to understand a little more of the miracles in your story about flipping flaws, and how important that is for anybody who's in the space of working with children and being with children and loving them into being. The whole idea that we all have this flaw, we all have flaws, we all make mistakes, but I would like to invite you into this space to say whatever moves in your heart at this moment, knowing what an incredible human being you are and the gifts that you've given to our world already, and the one that's blossoming under your conscious parenting.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I receive the compliments very humbly of a human on this path doing my best. And as you mentioned, for those of you who don't know me, which is probably most of you, my name is Renee Airya, and I am a 3-time near-death survivor. I don't really love the word survivor, but I guess I am gritty. Yeah, I'm a survivor. One of those instances was me having massive brain surgery. This was back in 2004, so it was some time ago. I have a talk called Flip Your Flaws. I won't share too much, personally there, other than sharing that my tumor itself was diagnosed by a product of my own intuition and my own journaling practice. And I'm sharing this for a reason, because I think all these threads, really reconnect to conscious parenting. So indeed, I actually most likely would have died had I not been receiving these messages in my journal that there was something wrong with me and I was going to die. I actually had no symptoms at all of a brain tumor. So we can maybe put a link or something, to my talk to fill in the blanks for people. But essentially what happened was, on the other side of the surgery, where I thought that I was going to wake up to freedom and liberation, and now knowing that I no longer had something going on in my body that I wasn't able to diagnose, and instead I woke up with a less than 1% chance that my entire face was completely paralyzed on the right hand side. The type of surgery I had cut through multiple different cranial nerves, and it just so happened that the only thing holding my facial nerve together was the tumor itself. So I obviously had a very come to God moment at that point, and kind of saw like the big gates open in front of me of what the possibility of my future could look like. And like literally on one side, I just kind of saw darkness and despair, and on the other side was a spark of hope and light, and really just giving myself the opportunity to believe that I was going to be a part of a miraculous story, and that some way, somehow, I was going to physically be healed. And I think the process, that did happen, I still have probably about 40%-ish paralysis on the right-hand side, but that really became very secondary, because through this whole process, of which it took a couple of years, I basically realized that what we perceive as being flaws. And in my case, it was, not really able to open and close my eye properly, smile on one side, really move it all on one side. I realized that flaws are actually opportunities. They are gateways to our sincerity. And when you can really lean into that and understand that the things that you think are the most abnormal about yourself, the most quirky about yourself, the most weird, the most not average parts of yourself, there are very big gifts within that. So what I want to share as far as parenting was sharing that story. I often think about the flip your flaws story in my own parenting, because I was a surprise later in life mom. I had Osiris when I was 43, and I did not think I could be a parent. I am, a very free spirit by nature, obviously it was like well into my 40s at this point, hadn't spent a lot of time with children. I do come from a huge Catholic family on one side, 27 cousins, but that was like way back when I was younger. So I really had a divine opportunity to lean into the possibility that I would be able to do this. I could be a parent. And then after I had my child, I basically realized that instead of me feeling like I needed to be the one to come to my son with all of these offerings, I basically realized that if I just stayed present and tuned in and listened to him and listened to the present moment, connected with my own intuition around things, that is that's what lit up my child. And I have basically been parenting that way now ever since the beginning. And I feel like it has really worked for our son and for our family unit. So there's a lot of aspects of being present, of slowing down to listen to the intuition, slowing down enough to listen to my child, really looking at the sensory feedback. And it's a nourishing way to do parenting. It's a yin to the yang way of doing parenting. Like I would say that most of the parenting energy in the world is quite yang. All the books and all the ways that you're supposed to be doing things, and it's like a one size fits all, and it's very fast, and the kids are in like 20 sports lessons and going to school all day. It's like there's just everything is very, very fast. So I feel like that we as humans and parents, get this opportunity in the journey to rebalance our own selves, rebalance our family units, and then I believe ultimately rebalance the collective, in and of itself by kind of the energy that radiates out from us by doing life this way.
Yeah, how beautiful. The first chapter of the book, The Future of Children, is really entitled Children as Our Teachers. Mm-hmm. And you can see in this, and one of the most important lessons that we have learned is that listening beneath the surface of things and realizing that attention is one of the 3 A's of love. So when a child sees and experiences you as being listened to, when you're patient enough to listen to the child, already love is being transacted. Yes. And that is so foundational. And then we know that anything that arises or emerges is an opportunity for us to do the work that we have to do. And your story is really all about that preparation that you had, not to be a survivor, but a thriver in a sense, because thrival is what you have arrived at. You know, you are really using all of those experiences that you had in learning how to train your face to come back to the beauty that we can now see. You know, it's so self-evident, but also the glow inside of you that is represented by your relationship with Akira and Osiris and his family, and the rewirement training is really, you know, embodied in your story. You needed to rewire your brain in a way by aligning with light and love so that it could begin to do what the doctors said that wasn't really possible. So we know that by rewiring, you shifted, you know, into a new dimension of consciousness.
Yes.
And in that dimension, you're being present for Osiris, and both of you being conscious parents, you know, makes a huge difference in the way the world is, because we're all connected. And people can feel it more and more. I think right now, more people are waking up on the planet than at any other time.
Yeah.
And there's more of them than ever before. So if there's, if there's, what is it, 7 billion, or, you know, if there's that many people on the planet, the percentage is higher now of people who are awakening and using their pain and their challenges as ways of transforming. So it's really a wonderful thing that the three of us have been talking about, ways that we can make films that help others, you know, understand and experience what it's like when you shift to a higher path of awareness, especially in the area of interconnection and community. And I think collaboration, which is really so well modeled often in the movie making world, because you just can't do anything alone. Everything has to be a team effort. So maybe both of you would like to speak a little bit about what's emerging in this moment for each of you as it relates to rewirement training and community.
Yeah, I love that, Phil. I mean, I really like using rewirement as a concept because I feel like in order to kind of, build anything, like you said, collaborate on a film, which is a multidisciplinary project and involves different like types of creativity from all different people to collaborate and work together. That is a form of rewirement. I feel like becoming a parent is a form of rewirement. And it's also been really interesting to see these new kind of like what you've demonstrated with your school and what these other schools are doing, which is this, what I see as this kind of version of rewirement that is almost like all these different root systems connecting with each other and growing into each other and resourcing each other. And we do it, in a very practical way with all of our film projects. It always involves, a lot of communication, a lot of attention, slash love, which I like that too. I'm going to start interchanging those two concepts because it requires a lot of love in the form of so many things. And, for me, rewirement is just this kind of daily focus on listening and exchanging and learning from our son, who's become a big teacher of mine, and integrating all of these things. He travels with us for our film shoots. We share every aspect of our professional grown-up life with him and encourage him to share his daily kind of insights and favorite things, his challenges from the day. And I feel like that's all part of this, for me, constant daily like rewirement of recognizing myself, recognizing how I work with this ecosystem of our family and a business, and the way it's all combined in our world. And it's a practice that I really learned to embrace. So for me, it's very active. It's not kind of like I'm gonna now step into this stage of life. It's like, wow, I'm actually in this rewirement process and daily training, learning, practicing in so many ways. That's what it is for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And what's coming to me, it is interesting because I think they're like the big events, the big rewiring events, and then there are like the daily practices, around that. One thing I wanted to share specifically in regards to like programs and teaching and rewirement is that interestingly, when I did finally get the brain tumor diagnosis, so the tumor, they were able to trace it back because this is a very, very slow growing tumor. So they traced it back to that mine had been growing since I was 15. So this was almost like 15 years. And as I mentioned, one of the reasons it was difficult to get diagnosed is because I didn't have any symptoms. I spent a lot of time talking to my medical doctors about this whole process, and they had done over 10,000 of these surgeries. So they were like the, top of the top masters. And they both agreed that most likely the reason why I did not have headaches, I wasn't almost deaf in one ear, I didn't have the classic symptoms, is because when I was 21, I went through neuro-linguistics and hypnosis training. And it was their philosophy that I had rewired my system to such an optimal degree that I was completely highly functioning, even with a tumor that my brainstem was like this. So physically, my brainstem was actually bent. And that always really stuck with me, and that rings very true to me. I just had this kind of fire in my soul when I moved myself from a small town in Indiana out to Southern California when I was 21, and I discovered Self-Realization Fellowship Center, and I discovered meditation, and I was all of a sudden in this world of, oh, I think I get to co-create my life. How exciting is that? I wasn't just born into my circumstances. I mean, this was revolutionary for me. And luckily I discovered this, at 21, so that now the last whole 27 years, of my life, and I even consider myself to be young, I've been able to live with a lot more free will and a lot more choice because I rewired myself in a big way, at that time to set myself up for success for the long haul. And that's what I love about what you're teaching, Phil, because to me, this is one of the big levers that moves you for decades to come. And it doesn't only move yourself, it shifts your family constellation as well. It shifts you on a genetic level. It shifts, the world around you. So that's why I think it's very important to be aware of these opportunities that we have to rewire and, do it and go for it. And then also, yes, I think it does come down to, daily choices, in the moment. Akira and I, from the beginning of having Osiris, listen, we're entrepreneurs, we're creatives. I both believe are very highly ambitious people. And because we had the great fortune to start this project called Little Humans, which was a conscious parenting docu-series that we did with Mind Valley, we had the pleasure of interviewing so many teachers and educators, and we committed that we wanted to be with Osiris a lot. We did not want to leave him, with an au pair or nanny, 24/7. That's okay. I'm not, this isn't a judgment conversation or anything. These are just active choices, that Akira and I have made. I still sleep with Osiris. He's 5.5. We co-sleep. I breastfed him until he was 4. And there was a whole set of rewiring that came with all of that for me, because I thought I was going to be, maybe I'll breastfeed him for 6 months, and then I'm going to be filming shows and I can't take him with me everywhere. But I did. I mean, I co-slept with him, and the reason I breastfed him until he was 4 was because I could tell that if I really tuned in, that that was his path. That's what our relationship was calling for. That's what he was calling for. Was it the easiest thing in the world for me? No. However, I became a more expressed part of myself and more in touch with my femininity. I surrendered, through the whole process. So I think there are the macro rewirings, and there are the micro rewirings that are constantly available to us.
Well, that's so perfect. And I want to thank you both so much for sharing with me and for being in my life. It's such a great gift to meet people like you and to immediately fall in love. As I often say, falling in love is not something you do, it's something that happens. And when it happens, it's such a beautiful thing. And so thank you both. And I think in terms of rewirement, got a definition thanks to our time that you've graciously shared with me today. And I hope others can hear the power of rewirement. And what we aspire to do in this rewirement training is, by the time you get to the 8th module, which is Love is the Cure, we'll have a ceremony so that we can really activate the rewiring that's occurred. And as you so beautifully pointed out, the practice is what's important. Once that happens and you practice, just like how long it takes to breastfeed a child and know intuitively you're being guided by something else, that practice has to be daily. And it has to be kind of an aspiration to continue to do that, so that you integrate this new rewiring, as you've both done so beautifully, as you're evolving your company and also raising a child. Thank you both so much. I'm conscious of your time and know that you have a busy schedule today, so I don't want to make an abrupt ending. I just want you to know I feel blessed by the time that we spent with each other.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, thank you for doing this and bringing all these perspectives together. Really appreciate it.
Can I just share one last thing? Because it's popping up. Do you mind if I share one last thing?
No, not at all.
So I mean, for the people out there, Akira and I have really been in the presence of lots of masters and, kind of the best of the best in their fields and education and parenting. And Phil, you have just, as we've communicated multiple times in this call, have just always left such a deep and lasting impression on us. And I just want to again iterate that this is a rare thing. It's a very rare opportunity to be in the presence of and learn from someone who has dedicated their life to a cause and a mission. And not only, being a teacher and being a mentor as you are, Phil, but what I love about you so much is that you truly are in constant practice of who you are and who you be. You are always so attentive and just wanting to listen, and you show up in the environment with full presence. And it is a rare thing, especially in these modern times, to be able to be a part of such deep wisdom. We will do the rewirement training, as well, because we could always use, help in this journey. But I just want to triple stamp my all the approvals on this.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, both of you.
Right.
It's a good time for us to say goodbye for now, and hope seeing each other again soon.
All right.
It shall happen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Great. Phil, let me pause the recording. There we go. Okay.